and welcome back. Clixstars here at Morningstar Games in Savannah, Georgia. We just finished our first event for Fear Itself, and we're here to talk to you about it.
First final event.
First final event. So,
oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, we were going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about the figures and how they progressed through the 6 months of Fear Itself, and kind of share some opinions from the crew that you met last time as we progressed through the different changing environments, point values, and as we got to know some of the characters and they came into the prominence. Once again, you forgot to introduce yourself.
oh, I'm Steve Abrams.
I'm Darren Dew,
I'm Gordon Stolas. Troy Hyde.
and we're still at Morningstar Games in Savannah, who graciously hosts us and let us take over this place to broadcast to you once in a great while. So let's talk about month one. Back in the beginning, really, it was low point values. There were 300-point events. Iron Fist was the outstanding star, was seen as a force to be reckoned with on all teams.
I would say Monkey King. Monkey King
is an
like,
incredible tie-up piece.
yeah, we didn't see him coming in the set. And then when we open up, just going through his dial in that first sealed tournament,
Yeah.
It just kind of locked it in as the must play.
He was amazing. And for his point cost, he's 45 points, but he has 6 clicks.
Yeah, and
6 clicks.
6 clicks, and he's starting off with 19 defense and close with combat reflexes.
Especially
and then he
since,
flies for 11. So he's an amazing transporter and tie-up
Yeah,
piece.
He can carry most everybody. You got to
Yeah.
push him onto that second click.
Second click, so he gets shape
shape
planes
change.
and 19 defense.
That's pretty good. That's tough to overcome,
Yeah.
especially in a sealed environment where there's not a lot of outwit. You
Or
can't just
range,
pick off
period.
these. Or range.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
very
good.
close combat heavy set.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
One of my favorite figures from the first month was Titania as well. A very common figure, but she just performed consistently. And I'm talking about Titania, the lower point value one. She just performed really consistently well. She has a lot of good stats with some decent abilities. She's indomitable, I believe. Yeah, and so she just consistently ran her way through higher point figures that were not as effective, but she wasn't seen as oh wow, it's Kurth or Colossus. She was just Titania, and nobody really cared about her. So she served really well in the first month there. And we hadn't seen any Colossus or Kurth in the first month in either event.
I mean, Kurth was a very rare item. Everyone wanted him.
Yeah.
And everyone's as soon as he comes out here, he's going to be winning tournaments. Which I think he started the first time he came out there, he won the first 2.
No, he came into month 2.
And Charlie decimated with him and Doctor Strange. I think
Brother Voodoo.
Brother
Voodoo.
It was even worse.
Yeah. Oh.
That was the nightmare draft right there. He pulled Kurth and Brother Voodoo, and just an amazing confluence of characters. And Charlie was rather new to playing Brother Voodoo, so he didn't realize he was getting mind control as a free action in there. And I got lucky enough to play him to a standoff in the first round when he didn't know that it was a free action. And at the end, we rolled off, and I lost, which was the only chance I was going to beat him with my team. And I leaned over to him and said, "Charlie, you better read Brother Voodoo's card again." And I walked away, and he's like, "Oh my God!" So then he dominated the rest of the tournament and walked easily to victory. Kurth made his appearance in Brother Voodoo, but we started to see also really the two figures that I think did most effective throughout the 6-month period. And you guys can dispute this. Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he just started coming out and just taking control of games. He was you had to get rid of him.
The very few the only other prop control I think within the entire set was the Thule Priest, and you push him to click 3 to get that.
He's almost dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, his last
click.
before his
Yeah.
click.
And he's not very mobile. The other figures, Hawkeye, Doctor Strange and Hawkeye, just consistently were doing effective, amazing things for their point values. Hawkeye flies, he runs around and he carries people and all that
He's
stuff.
got the incapacitate ability.
He's a sharpshooter.
Yeah.
He has that funky incapacitate.
I mean, you combine Hawkeye with a couple Iron Fists, and you can take out a Kurth, you can take out a Null.
And incapacitate by itself is doing damage to nulls and the curse to take away their actions.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're doing 7 damage if you're not doing any actions.
Yep.
Yeah, incapacitate.
I think I dealt some serious damage to you with Iron Fist and some Incapacitate.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, that was fun. And the only other figure that really kind of consistently, he didn't show up all the time, but Mock became a force.
Oh, at the start of the tournament, everyone's like, "Oh, I pulled a Mock. How the heck am I going?" Because in low point value, it's you pull Mock, and then you have one other piece.
Yeah,
to go
Monkey
with.
King or
Monkey
Prodigy
King, and
or
it's just
something.
kind of But then you start getting into these 500 point matches, and Mock is suddenly all these hefty pieces that have Indomitable.
You can fit them on your team.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can do a lot of
Doesn't
stuff.
matter. Yeah.
You throw them in there, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I came up and hit you," and the clock's like, "Well, you can't do anything else. I'm
Yeah.
sorry."
That's that's it.
And now my team's just going to lay into you, and you're going to cry.
Skirn and Greethoff made some occasional appearances and showing of a force of strength throughout months 3 and 4. And Tannerus, no running shot, but Psychic Blast. I know one time I had 2 Tannerus on a team in a sealed with Doctor Strange and some other figure that I can't recall now. But the Tanneruses, the Tannerai, were so effective because they were just punching through all those formidable defensive powers. That when you were getting a couple shots, they have a fairly decent range and Psychic Blast. They were doing a lot of work. You wanted a comment from the Peanut Gallery?
I wanted to ask a question.
Oh,
Could
yes.
Could you talk about the difference in the events that we had that didn't allow the book and the
That's
hammers
true.
and the ones that did, and how map choice affected some of the months, especially month 5?
So let's talk about the Book of the Skull first. Why don't you lead us off with that?
Well, going back to what we were saying about how Iron Fist was such a formidable opponent with the 17 and combat reflexes
Yeah.
and super senses and monkey cane as well, it didn't matter once people all got hammers and they were running around with 13 attack.
Yeah, that's true. It was much easier to fit it on your force at 400 and 500 points.
Yeah.
So in the 300-point environment, Iron Fist at 80, I think he is.
It was like
Yeah, well,
76.
the common one is 80.
And so yeah, he easily
Uncommon, I think it's
he tears up when you
95,
can't fit
94, yeah.
or have time to pick up hammers.
Yeah.
But on the bigger games, yeah.
Also, especially when the Pacific Ocean map came out, you have Nurkod's hammer, it gives you dolphin symbols, so you've already got, like, I remember I had Skirn, and I kept
Yes.
giving her Nurkod's hammer.
Yes.
So she was running around with +2 speed and ignored everything for movement. She's already a deadly piece.
Yeah.
Well, let's briefly touch on that because that was probably the most dramatic map was the Pacific Ocean map and Nurkod. I know that was the team that I had, the 2
Yeah,
Tannerus
like-
and the Doctor Strange.
That's when Atuma and Nurkrod pulling. That was like
That was a
Nurkrod, you won the
gift.
game. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot, Nurkod, yeah, he was a big deal, but I think Atuma is actually much worse in that situation than
He's 106 points. He's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
he's a lot cheaper, and then he can pretty much shut you down if he gets close
Yeah.
enough.
The problem
He's
is
worse
though
than
that
the
pulse
Yondu.
wave that Nurkrod
Oh, yeah,
came with.
yeah.
He was laying in so much damage to everybody that was like just getting while he was running around with like doing 11 speed or 10 speed,
Yeah.
and then he would pulse wave on you
With
with
a range
a
of 10.
range of 10.
Yeah.
It was just overwhelming.
And that might have been some of the way that I played him in that first event because I saw that and I gravitated towards that running shot pulse wave with that immense range to catch people and almost wipe them out
Yeah.
with 4 or 5 or 6 clicks of pulse wave damage to catch them as the only one because he did. He had such an effective movement. Other people might have played that differently, but I was like, hey, I'm going to emphasize what I know, and I was running around with. But Atuma, we had a couple of forces with 2 Atumas on it. We had 2 Atumas to no, we didn't play. Nobody played 2 Atumas, but during the water map, somebody Ed or somebody had 2 of them.
Ed
Yeah.
had 2, and I had 1 in the second round last month when I won.
That's right. That's right.
Really, the only thing that made him better than Nurkod in that situation was the fact that it was the Pacific Ocean, because it requires them to occupy the water terrain
Yeah.
as well. As we saw this month, there was a little bit of water terrain on the map, and so Nurkod was able to take advantage of it way more.
I mean, Nurkrod's got that ability to create water around him. We haven't really seen him use that
No,
ability. Or
Atuma.
Atuma does.
Yeah.
And we haven't really been that's a pretty cool ability, but it's really hard to pull off if you can't get it off in the first turn. Because it's got to
Right.
be with at least 6 away from any opposing piece.
And they're not just going to wander into
No,
it.
they're not. They're going to avoid it. Especially, I mean, it's a rough. It's I don't know. Situational, and strategically, it's a difficult thing to pull off.
Very much so. And there's no TK in this set, so it's not like you can pick somebody and move them around.
Yeah.
Other than Odin.
And even then, it's not really that much worth it.
Yeah.
That worth it to move them into water.
Right. But I am glad that Atuma got a couple of great versions. One of my
Mhm.
favorite villains from back in the day. So we're glad to have Atuma and Nurkod. We at Morningstar we played it a little bit differently. We did allow the hammers for a while, but like with most of the resources, most of our crew got kind of burned out after say month 1.5, 2, maybe 2.5, and we started playing without any hammers whatsoever, just to create a variety.
I think another big reason why the hammers didn't work so well here is because we had the 10-round system. Like, if we could, like, you know, slow it down, like, I know a lot of other places, they can afford to have basically 5 to 6 hour matches. And honestly, here we can't do that. There's so much traffic going through Morningstar.
Yeah.
To invest that much time here, especially when I think most of us have day jobs.
Yes.
Going past the 10 round or 45-minute round, it just, you know. But anyways, we have 10 rounds. And it takes at least 4 rounds, 5 rounds to get all the hammers deployed that everyone wants to get into. I found that the games that actually were really going well are the ones where people just said, screw it, we're not going to do hammers, we're just going to attack each other. In fact, that's what Ed would do with a lot of people that were dependent upon the hammers. He just said, well, I have this Book of Skulls here, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to just go after you because you're going to try to put these hammers out. And when he was doing that, he had Colossus, and he was charging in. He was laying in a lot of damage on these people that were just waiting around for a hammer. And then, if he, like, Colossus was just on his first action, he'd charge in again and KO a piece.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my thing. No.
Well, and we've always kind of like, we're not really power gamers, we are more fun gamers. So I saw people do it in events where the hammers and the resources, the Book of the Skull, was allowed, and they both had an equal number of hammers, and they're like, you want to just like set these aside and just play regular, and like that way we don't have to worry about spinning it and forgetting and who had the hammer assigned to them, and or the book, and so several times I saw that, and they were like, let's just play HeroClix kind of the way that it was meant to be. We don't really need a 13 attack necessarily. Let's just use our regular, and it keeps it much more balanced. And I think people really came to understand that you can add all these special abilities and you can add offenses, but some of the matches were going incredibly quick. When we only had 2 figures and they had like 13, 14 attack or like 6 or 7 damage, they're just like blasting through people. Like, well, now Kurth, it doesn't matter how good he is. Once he takes 7, you know, there's only so much left.
Well, I mean, Noel, that first couple months, when you put a hammer onto him, he was throwing everyone away. He was just coming in and like, you're KO'd, you're KO'd, you're KO'd. With Scotty's hammer, with that exploit, and he'd just be like, well, I'm laying in 6 damage, and you only have 6 click of life. Do the math.
I should have pushed him sooner today. Other comments about maps? Any of the maps?
I mean, this week's map was just kind of like, there wasn't too many advantages.
Water.
I mean, there's a little bit of water. It was actually a nice little mix of hindering and water, which, you know, it actually allowed you maybe to bring in Nurkrod and not be at too much of a disadvantage.
Right, which
for
Troy did.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
They put Nurkrod right there.
Yep, and so he's just laying in the pulse wave from that range, and
It was really just keeping others at a distance with
huge
the range.
He was
Huge
all
range.
the way down in here. And this has all these walls and blocking terrain, so it created a lot of advantage for the chargers and not so much the range characters. If they didn't have a running shot, they were at a disadvantage, so all the characters with charge, some guy who did pretty well tonight had a lot of characters with charge. And they would run around corners, but if they didn't have running shot, they were not going to be able to do that. Have we missed anything else? Now, we talked about most of the figures.
yeah, I mean, like, VIPs for me personally.
Yeah.
When I open up a booster, I look and I see for an Iron Fist. I do not go. I don't think I've gone to a tournament and I haven't played an Iron Fist. And there's never any regrets playing Iron Fist. Solid piece, coming in at 19 defense, I think, at the start, or at least 18 on his second click, with that super senses. And then he's rocking that close combat expert. That, you know, it just, I love it. And he's a pushable piece. And then with the regen at the end, there's been tournaments where that regen has either like cost me a game because another person rolled a 6 with him and got him back into the game and rolling in for 4 to 5 clicks of damage, or you know, there's times where he saved me.
Gordon, VIP?
Well, I'd have to say definitely, you know, anybody who can do range. So Hawkeye, Doctor Strange, and actually for me, Heimdall.
Oh, yeah.
Because Heimdall has that within 3 squares,
Very
you have
cool
to
skull, by the way.
you have to stop. So anybody who wants to charge in there, they have to come up, stop, wait for their next turn, and if you do that right, you can get Heimdall up there, and then just say, oh hey yeah, and you know, especially if you have somebody with range, Heimdall stops them, and you just take somebody out running shot, and they don't stand a chance.
Troy.
For me, I'd have to go with Sim. Outwit in this set is invaluable.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
Raizo Kodo, pretty good too.
Raizo's good too. Sin showed up a lot more because of her flexibility with running shot, shape change. Not shape change. She doesn't have shape
And
change.
the low point value. I mean,
Yeah.
she's only like
Combat
74, I
reflexes.
think 75.
Yeah, she's significantly cheaper.
Yeah,
than Rise
76
Up.
maybe, or
Oh,
yeah.
I don't have my serpent out here. I don't know
The
what
only
it is.
other figures besides those two
He's
that I
always
know, I
missing.
think
He's
Skirm's
facing
the only
teleported
other
away.
person with outwit in
I'm
the
gonna have to get one
entire
back from Richard.
set.
Okay, so
Skirn's kind of a tricky thing there because if you have
the revert.
she gets that on the exact same click. That she
Well,
has
no. We found out that
Oh,
revert
that's
is
not a-
it's
Only-
optional. You
only
have to give
minor
free action to
reverts,
do it.
Right.
Is
So-
mandatory.
Yeah,
Well,
Sorry.
and I'll say that her revert is much better than
which would probably
She-Hulk's.
change the outcome of time.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say I would much rather
Right.
revert to Titania than
I
She-Hulk.
don't think
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, Darren.
Huh?
She-Hulk's still really good when you. I mean, when she reverts, she goes to an 11 attack still on her 5th click.
Right.
And 4
Blades.
damage.
The thing is,
and then she's
when
got
she-
close combat expert.
The thing is, when they revert, they keep the weapon too. She keeps the sword.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And she's actually, I think she is one of the ones out of all the ones I've actually seen revert. It's one of those. If I have Red She-Hulk with the sword and the regular Red She-Hulk, I'd much rather revert. She has much better stats on those last couple clicks with the regular Red She-Hulk over the mighty ones.
Same thing goes with Hawkeye. I'd go into the Chaos War Hawkeye in a
yeah.
heartbeat if I had the option.
Yeah, that's an amazing figure though. You're talking about like almost the most broken thing.
Yeah.
That's a great figure.
With common
Yeah.
known. If you don't have a Chaos War Hawkeye, you should.
Yes.
Same thing goes for New 52 Green Arrow.
Yeah, they're
Which-
both really, really good. Okay, so let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Who's the un-VIPs?
Prodigy.
Now, I got a totally different one. You say Prodigy.
Yeah, give me some time on this one because I haven't had any real figures that I have been totally disappointed with.
I've played almost everything, and a few things that stood out that I didn't play. I tried Speedball a couple of times. I never got the urge. I pulled 2 Wolverines at different times, and I never got the urge to play them. And Miss Marvel, of all things. Seemed like a pretty good figure, but never seemed to have a big effect on the game.
I think she had too much of a big bullseye on her.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
people would always go for her because she's afraid of the heavy hitter. But at the same time, she's I think a defensive like right at the start of 17. I want to confirm that. So it's an attractive first attack because
Yeah.
you don't have to roll high, especially if you've got someone with Scotty's hammer or exploit. It's just kind of like I can lay some easy damage into her.
Something I figured out tonight is again she's another piece that she's only got 6 range, so you don't immediately think, oh yeah, she's the best piece ever. But that 6 range, you can also Blades Claws anything in
Yeah,
that
but
6
that,
range.
you
So
know,
if you
everybody
put
was
it-
in
if you-
awe of that when we first saw the stats in the dial, but I don't know that I ever saw it make a big effect.
But if you put in a piece that's a bigger target than she is, she can actually be really useful because somebody else, she's not going to be the first thing somebody goes for.
She's 155 points, man. It's got to be
Yeah.
a pretty big target.
Yeah.
It's got to be juicy.
I mean, I want to tell you why Prodigy sucks.
He's not DC.
Okay, I think everyone at least has pulled him. He comes in every
times.
freaking booster. It seems like.
Yeah.
And although his leadership ability, where he's 300 points and you roll a 6 and you can get leadership off someone, that's kind of cool.
It's pretty rare.
That is, it's not worth it for. I mean, he's 75 points and he can carry, and that's pretty much it. His attack values are decent. He holds a 3, but rolling down to a 15
Well,
defense,
super strength.
super strength. It's just.
I played him once. I believe I had him, Tannerus, and Greethoth, and he starts with invulnerability. So unless they have exploit weakness or psychic blast, the way he worked for me is that he was just there to occupy their heavy hitter until Greethoth and Tannerus came around.
Here's the thing. What I learned with him though is he's easy fodder for Grithoff to get that invulnerability.
Oh yes.
So
Cheap. Yeah, I got you.
yeah.
I tried one time, I think against you, Steve. I played Speedball and a Prodigy on the same team one time, and that worked out famously for me. So moving on, anything else we haven't covered? We haven't talked about the Serpent at all.
I mean, I don't know much about his dial. I'll be honest with you.
Right.
I don't like snakes. I made it clear tonight.
Why did it have to be snakes?
He's not a snake, he's a serpent.
It's the same thing.
The
isn't
same
it?
thing.
Dragon.
He's a snake with wings, so he's
He's a giant snake that's going to devour the world.
world. Yeah, he's a giant animal with giant needles for teeth. No.
And his claws are actually sharp.
Yeah. Okay,
He
he's
likes
got
to point that
claws,
out.
so
Really sharp.
I mean, to be fair, despite my phobia, It is an amazing sculpt.
It is awesome.
Winning it is a huge honor. I didn't win it.
Our winner's not here tonight.
Our winner's not. He took off. We feel. But
I'm not saying anything bad of him.
no. He's an amazing player. But it's if you get a chance to compete for it, fight hard.
All right. Last comments. Anybody? Gordon. Did we cover everything?
I think so.
I believe so.
I'm just happy
I
that.
could certainly say there's a lot of figures in this set that we didn't expect to pop up in this set.
Yeah.
Like,
Speedball.
yeah.
Who saw him coming? Monkey
Well,
King.
Yeah.
To be honest, who had even heard of Monkey King before this set?
Well, in the context of Asian culture.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but who
Martial arts.
Who had heard of the Marvel character?
No.
Gordon's waving his hand. He knew about that.
Yeah.
Even
But
Atuma is
barely-
like kind of
barely.
also around.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
Alright.
It's one of those that they're obscure characters that they're out there.
And they're in
And-
Fear itself.
And
Right.
yeah, and if
You'll
you know
probably
they
never
exist,
see
they're
them.
there,
Right.
but
If we ever
you
see
don't
them.
think that much of them because they're just kind of.
actually, Wolverine should be
That's
on the
big.
mighty side, but sorry.
Is that an AVX preview?
Oh well,
Because he's an Avenger.
he's an event. Yeah, but
In
he's
AVX.
he's not worthy. He's mighty.
Oh. Why is he that?
I don't know. Anyways,
So,
he goes where he feels.
Peanut Gallery. Anything we forgot? No, they're oblivious.
I can say I'm
Yeah,
happy that the
Wolverine,
next
yeah.
couple events are going to be 4 months instead of 6 months.
That is
Yeah.
probably a
Yeah.
good thing.
Because I'm going to be honest, around month 4, I was kind of like, I've had enough of Fear itself. Sorry.
Lots of.
No, I think WizKids. I think they listen to that.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
were you saying, Gordon?
It was just lots of tournament or rounds just kind of going. Oh hey, I came up and hit you for 7 damage, so you're just pretty much you're done on that first couple turns.
So not much variety to the style of play. You were emphasizing
Not
some
really.
of the same
You
things.
want-
That
you
changed
want
towards
a
the end, though, with the
fight.
maps and stuff.
Because
A
especially
bit.
in this set, even when you had like 2 big over 200-point figures, it would still be that I'm going to hit you once, I charge you and hit you once, and then you're useless against me. And
Well-
it's like you expect those to last long.
I think it comes down to this. There's some great figures in it that have some high attack values and high damage values. However, when you play as many matches in the same 6-month period with a set of 33 figures, that's a lot of experience with these figures alone. I don't think you would pick that you would play the same 33 figures that many times in a 6-month period. There's
No.
just no way. You would create variety. Like, I want to try this. All right, I want to try a Freedom and I want to do this. And figures. So I think 6 months is, and that's where we're going.
Yeah. Anyhow, we actually clock.
Yeah,
Since
that's
when?
right.
We've to go, people to see. You tuning in to watch us this week, and we hope that you tune in. I don't know what I think maybe we're gonna do the movie because it.
Just in case you didn't have enough of it.
We appreciate your comments, and visit us at Clixstars at Morningstar Games.